Hello and welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun. My name is Colm and I'm here to break down the tens of hours of E3 2021 live streams into a more digestible 18-minute video for you. So if you've missed any of it, I'll inform you of all the important bits. If you are keeping up with the marketing extravaganza, consider this a little refresher. There was so much stuff crammed into the last few days that it's easy to forget half of it. Remember when Weezer laid a haymaker on music critics last Thursday?
Don't be influenced by an office full of dorks. I won't mention any names. Pitchfork.
They don't call them the most dangerous band in the world at all. And listen, I like Weezer, but the most threatening thing about that performance was Rivers Cuomo's mustache. Anyway, I don't know about you, but I'm much happier with this kind of E3. Done and dusted in less than a week. Last year, every publisher and developer was trying to figure things out, so those fancy trailers and reveals that people crave every June were drip-fed over months, which resulted in countless lackluster showcases instead of 5 or so notable ones. And yes, I know we got more than 5 this year, but at least we got it all in before the second group games of the Euros. Lovely stuff. Look, let's just get on with it, shall we? Here's your recap and review of E3 2021. To begin this celebration of video games that aren't out yet than Geoff, which is the name I've given to the man that ejected himself from the jet he was piloting to bazooka another man during the Battlefield reveal trailer. But we'll talk more about that later. Because interactive media can only truly begin anew when Keighley dons his favourite pair of trainers and stands in front of a huge curved telly. While the salmon-shirted Wonder Summer Game Fest wasn't technically part of the ESA Summer Video Game Festival, it would be just plain rude to exclude Geoff's nearly 2-hour live stream in this roundup. But you only want the main talking points so you can engage in your Discord's discourse. So I'm sorry, Goldblum, but only room for Geoffs here. In order to give people something to do before he hit play on the Elden Ring trailer, Keighley gave us our first look at Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It's Borderlands, but in a fantasy setting, and Joe Bluth is the main villain. It'll have a full campaign, endgame goodness for those that want more after the credits roll, and it's scheduled to launch in 2022. Given how popular the D&D like Borderlands 2 DLC was, it was only a matter of time before this happened, really. 2 things that were much harder to predict. 1, Gus Fring off Breaking Bad telling everyone that he had a chat with his daughter about Adolf Hitler's star sign.
It's funny you asked me that question because I was just talking to one of my daughters about Ceausescu and also Hitler. Because we were talking about zodiac signs.
And 2, Hideo Kojima mentioning 9/11 after Geoff asked him about his next computer game. Who said these big fancy live streams are formulaic? On the topic of Kojima, he was a right tease, wasn't he? He came with a trailer that was replete with Metal Gear Solid references, only to end up revealing that he's cooking up a longer Death Stranding. Although this appears to be PS5 only, so us PC players will sadly have to make do with the paltry 50 to 60 hours you get in the vanilla version. Outrageous. From soup to nuts, the Summer Game Fest was a pretty decent showcase of games, both big and small, but there was one that stood out. Even as he was introducing it, Geoff knew it was the world premiere to end all world premieres. So he embodied Bruce Buffer to deliver his knockout punch.
It is finally time.
After all those "Where is Elden Ring" memes, it looks like you're going to be playing the game sooner than you thought. Now, I know very little about the Souls games, so you're not going to get any sort of deep and meaningful breakdown of the trailer here. But what you are going to get are banging observations like, oh look, it's a horse that can climb mountains. And also, is that a tortoise with a bell where its willy should be? Director Hidetaka Miyazaki has done a few interviews since with the likes of IGN and Famitsu, so there's plenty of info out there if you're looking for it. And I know a lot of you are, because for many, E3 peaked when we saw the plant pots with arms. While everyone was still huffing on Elden Ring's fumes, Day of the Devs celebrated some upcoming indies that you may not have otherwise known about. And I loved it. It was potential banger after potential banger. I'll give you a few standouts. Despelote, sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation, but that game is based on Ecuador qualifying for the World Cup in 2002, and it allows you to kick footballs in the faces of cantankerous old men. Loot River is a top-down roguelike, but also Tetris Tetris, and Vokabulantis is a stop-motion Aardman-looking platformer. Whatever you're into, chances are there were a few games at Day of the Devs that you should stick on the wish list, so give them a look. Netflix got in the action with the final day of their Netflix Geeked Week thing, highlighting some of their upcoming video game related telly shows. My main takeaways from it were that the transition sound effect they kept using sounded like the beginning of Eiffel 65's Blue. And apparently there's a man named Eddie Shankar and he's making a Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon cartoon. He's also a bit of a rebel.
Mass surveillance, big data, really all the reasons why this show's on Netflix and not Amazon.
Really sticking it to the man by partnering with this little upstart company named Flix, yeah. From a PC gaming standpoint, perhaps the biggest thing revealed during the show was WitcherCon, something they describe as a, quote, global virtual presentation that promises surprises and exclusive first looks. In all likelihood, there'll be more Henry Cavill than Doug Cockle, but it's worth keeping an eye on at the very least. And then later on the day, we saw a 2-hour Zoom call between friends. Yeah, I don't know who decided that this was the best way to properly reveal your new publishing label, but that's what Koch went for. Anyway, it wasn't even the most puzzling E3 presentation this year. More on that later. Saturday began with Guerrilla Collective and Wholesome Direct, and like Day of the Devs, both were full of indie delights that are worth a look. Because of the sheer volume of games they showed off, you're better off checking out our recaps on rockpapershotgun.com. Although my favourite at either was probably Slime Heroes. It really captured how I was feeling at this early point in the weekend. After an hour-long pre-show full to the brim with characters walking in a straight line, Ubisoft kicked off their E3 effort with 15 minutes on Rainbow Six Paris. No, it's not that either. Rainbow Six Extraction, that's it. This isn't going to replace Siege, because why would they kill that off? No, this is a standalone co-op FPS where you and 2 of your pals can take down some alien bastards instead of regular old human bastards. To some, the next game they showed off might have been a chance to boil the kettle, but I couldn't turn away from the screen during the Rocksmith Plus portion of Ubisoft Forward. This is a subscription-based version of the now 10-year-old game that aims to get you shredding your axe like a pro. Or at the very least, have you be the annoying one of parties that insists on serenading everyone with Hey There Delilah. Each song will have chord charts for rhythm players, and UB are also introducing tabs for those of us who grew up learning via guitartabs.cc. One of the coolest features in this game is that users will be able to create and share their own arrangements of Rocksmith Plus's songs for others to then learn and play. If the price is right, I will definitely be jumping on this. We got another look at Riders Republic, and it still looks like steep, but fun. Fingers crossed that Talking Mountain's been given the heave-ho. I couldn't stand him. Snowboarding, mountain biking, weird turbocharged hang gliding. This game looks like the perfect antidote for the last 2 years. As long as those panda-headed pricks don't get in the way too much. We also got another look at Far Cry 6, but then I'm pretty sure that game showed up at every E3 show. The new thing we learned here is that Far Cry 6's DLC is going to have you playing as the main villains from Far Cry 3, 4 and 5. I know a lot of people are tired of Ubi's continued efforts to get themselves another VAS, but I'm a sucker for these charismatic baddies, so I'm at least intrigued to see what this DLC is. After revealing a sequel to the quality Mario and Rabbids, that's not coming to PC in case I've got anyone's hopes up, Ubisoft finished their show by properly revealing a game they'd mentioned 6 years ago. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is a first-person action-adventure game and it's out in 2022. I saw Avatar on Blu-ray years ago and I fell asleep, but I hope you are excited to be one of those blue things. After that, we got Devolver's annual half-an-hour storyful film. Because there were 76 E3 showcases this year, some of the highlighted games had popped up elsewhere, but there were a handful that caught my eye. Trek to Yomi looks like a good 2D Ghost of Tsushima, and Wizard with a Gun, well, that has to get a mention for its name alone. While not an announcement, Inscryption still looks great, but then what did you expect from the people behind Pony Island? And then, to finish the day, we got 30 minutes of Gearbox head Randy Pitchford bothering Hollywood celebrities on a movie set. It was interrupted occasionally by graphics that told us Homeworld 3 was in production, but Jesus Christ. If all you're going to do is show some trailers that we've already seen, then it's probably best to just leave it off. Not the most magical ending to this E3 day. Phil and Friends started the Sunday, and they started with a bang. Starfield is coming out on the 11th of November 2022, and it'll have astronauts. And also space is there too. We still haven't seen Bethesda's RPG in action, so it's difficult to envision exactly what you'll be doing in the game. Now, after the reveal, Todd Howard did say that it's, quote, kind of like Skyrim, end quote, when talking to The Telegraph. So I guess that'll have to do until we hear a little more. Then they just went on a tear announcing release dates for games big and small. Stalker 2 was out April 2022, 12 Minutes is coming August 19th, Psychonauts is out a week after that. It was just trailer after trailer, announcement after announcement. From beautiful looking indies like Sommerville and Replaced, to surprise sequels like A Plague Tale, Requiem for a Rat and The Outer Worlds 2. It was relentless. Those who prefer to play with friends were also catered for. They got a 3-minute look at Battlefield 2042 and a little bit of Halo Infinite's free-to-play multiplayer. While I doubt I'll be dumping loads of time into DICE's near-future shooter, I did appreciate the person who flung a quad bike into a helicopter. Top-tier war shithousery. On Halo, I don't think people were as angry about this look at the game when you compare it to the first look, so Xbox can consider that a win. While it felt wrong to see Microsoft announce a new racing game without lowering a Bugatti from the ceiling, Forza Horizon 5 looks a bit of alright, doesn't it? The next entry in the Forza for people who don't give a shit about pistons or camshafts is set in Mexico, and I couldn't be more up for driving around a volcano or twatting piñatas on the road. November 9th can't come soon enough. And because this is the year of Left 4 Dead likes, the Anacrusis, Extraction, and obviously Back 4 Blood, Xbox finished their show by giving us a CG trailer for Redfall, the new game from Prey and Dishonored devs Arcane Austin. All we know so far is that, yes, like those other games, you can buddy up with your friends in this as well, up to 3 in fact, with all 4 of you being tasked with taking down some blood-sucking vampires. No gameplay sadly, but the pedigree of the studio is enough to get me interested in Redfall. And as is Xbox's way, the majority of the games highlighted during the 83-minute presentation are going to be playable on Xbox Game Pass for PC. I mean, it just seems silly if you're not a subscriber at this stage. Square Enix were up next and, well, it was a showcase of two halves. They started strong with a trailer for the third-person action game take on Guardians of the Galaxy. Then after that, we got some gameplay. Maybe a little too much gameplay, but either way, we saw Star-Lord firing bullets into some cubes of jelly, there were some trademark Guardian bants, and we got a release date. Did the reveal need to be 18 minutes long? Probably not, but when you account for what came after, I'm a little surprised Peter Quiff and Friends didn't go on longer.
Does the savior of Neo-Babylon stand among us? Let's find out!
Listen, Platinum are responsible for some of the greatest action games of all time. But what is that fella about? To be fair, I don't want to just point the finger at Joe Pasquale. Everything about Babylon's Fall seemed off. The mention of a live service element from a member of the dev team was a big ol' head scratcher. But it's early, I guess we'll just wait and see how this one pans out. Square finished up by revealing a Final Fantasy spin-off from the folks behind Neo called Stranger in Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. And at least from the 3 minutes they showed, it's quite clear what the main objective is here.
I'm here to kill chaos. Looks like chaos has been waiting for us. I want to kill chaos. This is the shrine of chaos. Chaos.
And who are you?
We're here to kill chaos.
I become chaos.
This man is very cross and he will stop at nothing until he drives his comically large sword through the heart of chaos. As funny as the trailer was, there are a lot of people that are fond of Team Ninja's work, so it'd be foolish to write off the Angry Blonde before we see more of the game leading up to launch. After Warner's brief look at Back 4 Blood, Sunday finished up with the PC Gaming Show and the Future Game Show. It was pretty late over here when all this was going down, so trying to decipher what trailer was new and what had popped up elsewhere was getting tougher and tougher as the minutes went by. But a few highlights were Far Changing Tides, a sequel to the beautiful Far Lone Sails. Dean Hall's next game, Icarus, got a new trailer and a release date. It's out on the 11th of August. And Her Story Sam Barlow revealed his next game, which is called Immortality. And at that point, it was bed. Capcom were the main event on Monday, and while they didn't bring any major announcements to the table, they did reveal that they've started work on some Resident Evil Village DLC. Surely Lady Dimitrescu related to satiate the desires of all the deviants out there. They also mentioned that RE-verse is coming next month. Like many of you, I had completely forgot that was even happening, to be honest. Overall, it was a pretty muted show, focusing on games that are out soon rather than ones that are going to launch in the months and years to come. So you'll have to wait a little while longer for that Dino Crisis 4 gameplay reveal. I thought the Tuesday roundup was going to begin with Bandai Namco, but here I am about to mention something that happened during the Nintendo Direct. Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater, which originally launched on Wii U back in 2014, is coming to Steam later this year. And it's the first time the series has ever come to PC. Sure, there was no industry-shaking announcement about Breath of the Wild 2 going multi-platform or anything, but at least we're not being subjected to that Mario Party Remake Collection thing. Swings and roundabouts. After Bandai Namco's brief spotlight on House of Ashes, oh, I hope you weren't expecting more Elden Ring, the whole thing was brought to a close with the E3 Awards. And the big one, most anticipated game, was given to Forza Horizon 5. Pretty hard to argue with that. It looks great. And that was it. E3 2021 was done. This year's E3 was a weird one. Better than last year's 6-month-long extravaganza, definitely, but it was light on wow moments. And also there were a couple of strange things, like that bit with the man who now remembers to store his memory sticks in a safe place. People are getting vaccinated and COVID restrictions are lifting, so you'd hope that by June of next year, things will be back to normal. And we'll get to hear the familiar sound of Microsoft employees whooping and hollering at the mention of a season pass or something. My fingers and toes are crossed. As always, thank you very much for watching, you absolute star. I hope you enjoy this recap of E3 2021. Maybe we'll do it all again next year. But if you come away from this video knowing one thing, let it be this. For all of your PC gaming needs, keep it on rockpapershotgun.com.